China's economy is much worse than is being given out publicly. That's what we're talking about today. China, which in 2005 was only 6% of the globe's economy and now is 13%, obviously is one of the two prime movers in the global economy, the United States being the other. And if China's in trouble, the world economy is in trouble, and China is in trouble. For 12 of the last 13 quarters, their official growth rate has dropped, that the government's reporting. But the government reports are really disingenuous. The growth rate has dropped from 7.9 to 7.7 to 7.5. It's projected to be 7.3. You can just tell there was a Politburo decision to have it drop by 0.2 every quarter. The fact is that very much of the Chinese economy is total make-work. They have a state sector that's about 60% of their economy, of people who basically don't do anything and don't produce anything. It goes back to the old days of the Russian economy, when they used to say the workers used to say, we pretend to work and they pretend to pay us, meaning that we don't really work and they pay us in currency where we can't buy anything. And in China, the equivalent of that is entire ghost cities that are built. Huge cities, tall buildings, apartment houses, and not a soul lives there. They were just built because they were built, because they had to employ the construction workers. And the regime understands that unemployment equals political instability. And therefore they have this humongous state sector that weighs down the economy, eats up its capital, and serves no productive purpose at all. All of the growth in China has been the third of the economy that's the private sector that operates along capitalist rules. But it's been increasingly starved for money because the banks, which are state-owned, have been subsidizing the state sector. And much of the state sector is owned by the army, so it's industries that try to support the military. The real problem is that the Chinese government has been increasingly moving away from the state sector and becoming increasingly, communist, antithetic to the free market principles. And when you combine that with corruption that's going on, with an absolute failure to generate domestic demand because the money really hasn't filtered down, as a result, it's still an economy based on exports. And you can't have a global engine of growth that's relying on sales abroad because that's a net negative from the global economy. So part of my pessimism about the American economy is my pessimism about the Chinese economy. I just think it's a house of cards. And then on top of that, you've had this massive real estate bubble, just like you had in Japan and just like you had in the US during the last 5 or 6 years. And like most real estate bubbles, it too is likely to collapse. It is far more likely that China will be a drag on the world economically than a threat to the world militarily. Thanks for watching.